I'm going to take my time with this message, and it may be a little lengthy. Many of you are feeling a specific kind of heaviness right now. It's a heaviness that you're feeling silently, that sits in your body when nothing is technically wrong, but nothing feels right either. You're still functioning, still showing up, but something feels off. Like your body is waiting for something to happen and the field around you is not offering it. And the field around you isn't offering it yet. I made tons of videos explaining the names for this exact feeling, like the liminal space, the in-between space holders, field anchors. But be very careful using these labels. Be careful of using these labels as another role you have to play to cope with the tension and to segregate yourself from those who don't understand it. And I need to say that plainly because a lot of what's circulating right now will try to tell you that this kind of heaviness is a mindset problem, a faith problem, or a failure to stay positive. It's not. What you're feeling isn't a lack of hope or an inability to connect. It's hopeless hope. The kind that happens when you see what's possible, which is hope, but you can't land in it yet, which is hopeless, because you can't pinpoint exactly when that will be. And the reason this feels so disorienting is that the algorithm, not just online, but culturally, it keeps feeding you distraction after distraction instead of helping you calibrate what's actually happening in your body. So you scroll, consume, frame, reframe, spiritualize, and optimize. All of it keeps you busy, but none of it helps you sit down somewhere, face what you feel, and process the stories you keep telling yourself to avoid feeling them. That's where I'm different in how I speak about this. For those of you who have read any of my literature outside of these messages, you know that I come from a deeply religious background, and it shows up quite candidly in what I write and what I say even here. I know the stories, I know the allegories, I know the language of hope, despair, salvation, and endurance, but I don't offer platitudes here. I don't offer intellectual frameworks meant to override or bypass what your body is telling you. Every time you're given a religious story, a scientific story, a metaphysical story, a philosophical parable, instead of a sensation, you're being anesthetized. You're being pulled into fantasy. And I don't care how many think pieces you create to justify how valid that is. That's not even the point here. Fantasies offer allegories and ways to tell the truth indirectly. And many of them feel good for a moment, but they delay the processing that actually allows you to land somewhere sustainably real. Fantasies cause you to live vicariously through characters, avoiding the direct truth of yourself. And right now, your body doesn't want a better explanation or a character to bypass yourself through. It wants sustainable coherence. It wants to stop pretending these fantasy frameworks work. It's asking, what do you feel? Where do you feel it? What can you do right now that doesn't bypass what you feel? This heaviness is actually a withdrawal. You are withdrawing from systems, narratives, people, places, and ways of living that no longer regulate you. And withdrawals are uncomfortable. But your survival mind has bought into overly spiritualized stories of punishment, reward, obedience, divine hazing as the reason for the discomfort. But your nervous system is telling you the mechanical, the mathematical truth that the old ways can no longer regulate you and that the new ways or the different ways aren't fully embodied yet. With that said, I want to reference the Exodus story from the Bible to show you exactly what I mean here. When the Jewish people left Egypt, they were physically free, but not free in their minds. The wilderness, in their survival minds, was punishment. But mechanically, it was their withdrawal. They believed in their survival minds they were lost, but mechanically, they were hovering between a system that once fed them and a landing they couldn't embody yet. Are you with me? They were traveling towards a spiritualized place called the Promised Land. But mechanically, they were hovering over a promised landing. Some of you will catch that later. The delay in that landing was labeled divine timing. But mechanically, it was just the collective resistance of the Jewish people that dragged the process out longer than it needed to be. In other words, as long as the dominant mindset in the field remained Egypt coded, the landing couldn't hold because the bodies couldn't sustain it yet. The generation that had crossed the physical slavery line into the wilderness needed ways to cope with being in that liminal space because that's what it was. So they latched on to Egypt nostalgia. Rituals reappeared. Golden calves were made. And although the Bible called it evil, it was simply the nervous system needing to immediately self-regulate. Some of you see the difference here. Many of you don't. Which means you need the survival logic of the Bible story to cope with where you are right now. And that's okay. But others of you, you need the mechanical logic of the Bible story to expand where you are right now. Both concepts and mindsets are needed. But because survival history repeats itself when more and more people aren't seeing the mechanics without numbing themselves, this means that some of you are holding the hopeless hope, some of you are carrying the signal, but then others of you, just like in Jewish slavery, just like American slavery, just like global slavery, you will stay fused to the old programming until it no longer works for you, or you'll die within it. But here's the inspiring part. We are no longer stuck in mythic time. We have language, nervous system literacy, somatic access, pattern recognition, declassified information, and ways to re-regulate without middle people, which means the landing is no longer reserved for a future generation after the resistant ones pass away. The landing becomes possible as the mechanics become visible and nameable. Not when everyone agrees or the belief is on the same page about the same thing at the same time. No. It's when enough of you stop mistaking withdrawal symptoms for personal failure and stop narrativizing the in-between space as some punishment or some divine initiation. That's where many of you are right now and have been for quite some time. You're out of sync with the old way, but you're not yet fully embodied to land in what's coming next. So your body slows down. Even when the current provisions aren't meeting the bigger need, your motivation fluctuates, your tolerance for noise drops dramatically, your appetite for fantasy distraction disappears. The more you try to force yourself out of this state with overly fantastical stories, motivation, or distraction, the heavier it gets. This is why I don't tell you to push through. I don't tell you to let go and trust in some abstract way. I offer something more practical and a bit more challenging. Sit down somewhere. hush your mouth, breathe, self-reflect. Can you stay with what you're feeling without numbing it? Can you reduce stimulation instead of adding more to it? Can you stop treating discomfort as something to fix and start treating it as information to collect about yourself? What's happening right now isn't mystical or a hidden secret known only to a few. It's physical, psychological, logistical, and nervous system level expansion. And when many more of you can see that, not believe it, but feel it, the promised landing becomes inevitable. So, stay with your body. Stay honest about what actually soothes you, and don't let anyone rush you into a fantasy just because they're uncomfortable with your clarity. That's all for now.